Welcome to this week's Desk Side Chat. We have Chris Gervais joining us this week as our guest, Chris will help us introduce this week's topic, which is delivering an authentic client experience. Chris, you've been around with what we've been doing since the very beginning, have been a great supporter, great help to everything that we're trying to do, and really excited to have you joining us this week to help introduce this topic. If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about yourself before we get into it. Chris, for those of you who don't know him, he's not just a financial advisor. He's got a lot of different hats that he wears. So Chris, I'll let you share a little bit about what you have going on, and then we'll jump into the topic.
Thanks, John. Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone listening in or watching this recording. As John said, my name is Christopher Gervais of Gervais Wealth Management. I have been part of the Good Advisors Finish First cause since it began. I think I was one of the inaugural video chats, you might say.
Yeah, I think you were. Were you the first one?
We talked about COVID had just hit. Everyone was starting to work from home. And since I'd been working from home already for 4 or 5 years, it was a real easy first one to kick it off for you. So great to be back. Glad to be back. And as John said, yes, I do wear a number of hats. My full-time day job is that of a financial advisor. I am owner of Gervais Wealth Management. I have 2 other advisors that work with me now, so we are slowly growing. But in the off hours, in addition to being a husband and a father of 3 boys, I spent 20 hours playing baseball last week. So for those of you who don't know, I'm normally in Winona, Minnesota. For this past school year, my wife and I did something a little unique. We had the opportunity to do a family-long study abroad trip in Naples, Florida. And so we've been in Naples here this school year. We'll be moving back to Minnesota Memorial Day weekend, and it's been a pretty fantastic opportunity. Just experiences all the way around. So in addition to being a father and a husband, I'm also a beekeeper. We have a cattle farm. We have, oh gosh, what else do we have? We've got a pizza restaurant that we own and operate in Winona as well. So there's no shortage of things going on at our
Are you still
place.
doing triathlons too, or
No, some things have needed to step by the wayside. I still like to stay in shape. That's part of me staying a balanced person, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. I'm still athletic. Softball is still a big part of my summer routine. A lot of people ask if I get into golf, and not yet. I enjoy it, but it really messes up my softball swing, and that's still a little too important for me at this point yet. Yes, I do wear a number of hats.
Well, as we get into the topic, then, thank you for sharing that, Chris. So you and I have some things in common. We both were with Edward Jones for a while, and you've talked about before your experience in kind of, there was a transition point for you in your mind in terms of kind of embracing and being authentic. Can you talk about that a little bit to start off here?
Yeah. So I got started in the industry the summer of 2007, which in hindsight was both the best time and the worst time to get started in this business. I was a high school math teacher prior to that, 7th and 8th grade, as well as a special ed course. And I tell you, Edward Jones has some amazing training out there. They really do a great job with that. In addition to just the book knowledge and some of the experience, I think one thing that I take most from my teaching days was that experience working with individuals, working with the special needs students, because working with them taught me how to create 30 different analogies in the scope of 5 minutes. It also taught me how to read a person's eyes really, really well. And just when you start to see them, lose focus, start to glass over, that ability to transition to a new analogy to keep them engaged in the conversation. Because let's face it, not everything we talk about in this business is simple and easy to understand. And sometimes analogies are needed to get that point across. But again, Edward Jones was a great place to start. I was there for about 10 years. In 2016, life happened. needed to rebalance, simplify, change things, and went independent. LPL offered me the opportunity to create my own business and partner with them moving forward. And I will say the last almost 5.5 going on 6 years here has been a great opportunity. So it's, I've seen it in the captive world with Edward Jones. I've seen it now on the independent side of things. The grass is greener on both sides, depending on how you look at it. It's also browner on both sides, depending on how you look at it. What it comes down to is what you make of it.
And again, yeah, we don't want to endorse one affiliation option over another, one particular firm over another. This cause and what we're trying to do is open to everyone, and that means that there's a lot of different personality traits. There's a lot of different business models that fit under these different affiliations. But when you are starting out and becoming independent, coming from that more captive world, it's certainly challenging. Can you talk a little bit about that transition for you? Maybe some of the fears you had, and maybe how you were able to get over some of the initial challenges of making that leap?
Yeah, it's a good question, John. I think for me, what really helped with that leap was my personality type. I'm definitely type A, very hands-on. Some would say overly controlling. But when you're starting out as a business owner, making that kind of transition, you have to be overly controlling. You have to be very detailed with everything you do, because there is so much coming at you. There is so much to rebuild or recreate. There are things you may have, there are things I took for granted having worked at Edward Jones that I now have to do for myself. And that's fine, but it was definitely a learning curve. And I'll say staying on top of it for the first year or two was the only way I could stay in control, in charge, and not get run over by the business. Now that I've been on this side, the independent side, for a couple of years now, I've got my processes in place. I've got that experience. I've figured out ways to autopilot or offload, delegate responsibility. I'm still in charge. I still have a finger on everything, but I don't micromanage. I hire good people to take care of things for me, and I trust them to do that. And that allows me to create time for other things in other places that allow me to, as we talk about later, create this authentic experience for my clients.
Well, let's actually jump right into that, because you've talked about your service model with your clients and in some of our meetings and conversations in the past, and shared some of the things that make Gervais Wealth Management unique. So why don't you go ahead, Chris, and jump right in and talk a little bit about what makes your process different and how you are delivering that authentic experience to your clients.
Yeah. I don't think my process is necessarily different than a lot of others. I know of many good advisors who do it very similar to me, and I to them. And let's be honest, nobody creates their own great idea. I mean, you might, but this industry, we're really good at stealing, that's a harsh word, borrowing others' really good ideas, internalizing them, and then making them our own. And so I think that's what I've done more than anything else. Is I've seen what worked for others. I've seen the basic recipe in terms of running a successful practice. Again, I had a great learning experience while at Edward Jones. I've had tremendous people to watch and observe here as I've gone independent, just doing it a different way on that side of things. And I've been able to take bits and pieces from everyone and morph it and mold it and make it my own. But what I do isn't going to work for everyone. And so, as I would tell everyone, when it comes to making it authentic, find 2 or 3 things you love that'll work for you, mold them, morph them, change them, internalize them so that they are you. And that just makes the authenticity come through even more clearly.
And so when it comes to, let's start trying to get into the weeds a little bit here. We'll keep things fairly high level, but engaging. Let's talk about,
Yeah.
bringing on a client, the onboarding process to the ongoing engagement with that client. How does that process in your mind, really work with being that authentic advisor? And I like how you say you got to be yourself, right? There's so much perception from the public out there that advisors have to fit a certain mold. They have to look a certain way. They have to act a certain way. They have to say certain things. So how are you bringing a client on, delivering that experience and really, helping that client to understand who you are, that is going to be different from somebody else that's out there?
Yeah. So before I talk about, bringing on that new client, because I've had a few of them here in the last couple of weeks because of some opportunity that has grown from that authentic experience I've provided. I think really it goes back to some of the things I started doing back in Edward Jones. I read a book by Robert Knapp called The Supernova Advisor, and he really talks about segmenting your book of business. Having what he called your green clients, your yellow clients, your red clients. And it's not that red is bad. It's just that red defines their service model. They are clients who only need that once a year contact, only want, frankly, that once a year contact, or don't want you to contact them at all. They'll contact you when they need something. Those yellow clients are those clients that want to be called 3-4 times a year. They want to meet once a year, and they don't really need much more beyond that. And then you have your green clients, the clients that generate the bulk of your revenue, the clients where you do want to spend the most amount of your own personal time. This isn't you're not delegating your time to the green and reds. You're delegating your support staff to them. But the green clients are, the clients that need a lot of contact or want a lot of contact, the twice a year reviews and things like that. So, it really started for me delegating and creating and segmenting my book of business. Because then when it came time to bring on a new client, as I interviewed them, as I talked to them about their needs, the level of financial planning they were looking for or not looking for, maybe just a transaction based client, it helped me start to color code them right away and get them into the appropriate level of service. I'll also say, and I've seen this in my own surveys that JD Power and Associates I've been a part of. LPL ran some surveys for me about a year ago. They asked clients, how happy are you with your advisor's contact? And my scores are generally 98, 99%. We're happy because I call them exactly as the clients have told me to. I flat out ask them, how often do you want me to call you? And they tell me, and then I do exactly what they tell me. And I've had some clients tell me, just don't call me again. And that's why they're red. Doesn't matter about size, doesn't matter about revenue. It's what the client wants. And so as I segmented my book, I asked them about contact, I interview them, that gets them into the service model. And then, as I learn more about them, as we work together, maybe they move up and down the color tree, but that's how at least get them into the appropriate service model. It's that segmentation process.
I love that. Trying to really hone in and deliver that personalized experience what the client's looking for. We've talked about this a little bit as well, especially right now with volatility and the way things are going. How are you balancing what the client wants with maybe what the client needs? Those things may not necessarily always align.
Yeah, one of the things, and again, I mentioned earlier that starting out in 2007 was both a blessing and a curse. Arguably, from a learning experience standpoint, I could not have started at a better time. There's not too many clients alive anymore that remember 1987 or were investing before that. And there'll be fewer and fewer clients over the next 10, 15 years. But for most of my clients, I can look at them and say, I was there with you in the worst markets since the Great Depression. I was there with you since the worst markets of 1987. I have that experiential thing. One of my biggest takeaways from 2007, 8, 9 was that sometimes clients just needed to do something. And it didn't matter what it was. They just, and they knew they needed that emotional release, and they knew logically they shouldn't, but sometimes you just can't stop emotion. And I learned as an advisor in that time period, don't try to stop it, just try to control it, or at least provide an outlet for some of that, the safety valve, you might say. And so I learned that even if a client's moving 4, 5, 10% of their portfolio around, I might not think it's the greatest thing to do because I'm a long-term investor and I know what their needs are looking down the road because of the financial plan we've created. And logically, it's not the right thing to do, but emotionally, it keeps them from jumping off that proverbial financial cliff. And if we go from a 60-40 portfolio to 55-45 portfolio, are their long-term goals intact, by and large intact? Yes. Did the client get to do something and feel like they had, they made a change? Yes. Does it keep them invested for another 6 months or 9 months? Does it buy some time to let the markets recover or at least learn more about what's going on? Absolutely. And so for me, the last couple of weeks, I've really gone back to what I learned in 2007, 8, 9. And it's that we've just tweaked the portfolios. Maybe it's a little bit more in cash. Maybe it's just a little bit more in bonds. Maybe it's some of the bonds, because we as financial advisors know what the next couple of years look like for bonds and bond funds, moving a little bit more into their favorite stocks because they are so much down in value. But it's just moving a little bit of that portfolio so they can emotionally feel like they did something to be proactive with their investments.
I love that approach because you're right. It comes down to emotions so much, and really long-term success. If you just slam a client into something, maybe you just, hard line, this is what you need, this is what you have to have. You might lose a client because they're going to, be uncomfortable with what they have. But at the same time, you can't just completely roll over either, because and just give the client, whatever they want. I want to be in all cash. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that, because that's not what's best for the client. It's not valuable. Where are you earning your fee if you're just going to roll over? So really striking that balance, finding the right amount where, like you said, just helping the clients do something in finding that middle ground in between. So do you want to get into your own personal balance in
Yeah.
ULA? Because I speaking
Well,
of
as we
balance, I'd
talk
like to get
about,
into that. Yeah.
we talk about balance, and I knew I was doing this chat today. And so I was reading last night. I was actually reading, for those of you who study religion or are, you put effort into your faith. You may know of the group called Dynamic Catholic. You may know of an author called Matthew Kelly. If not, that's fine. But I was reading a book by Matthew Kelly. He was talking about the saints, and in particular, Saint Benedict. Saint Benedict, if you don't know, was a monk way back when, and his whole thing was about establishing routines and processes. And across the Middle East, monasteries really followed and grew because of what Saint Benedict did in terms of establishing an order or routine for living a Benedictine monk life. Well, as I was reading him and thinking about routines and process, I started reflecting on my own week last week and how I didn't have any sort of process. I'm very fiercely protective of my daily routines. That has helped me be a successful independent financial advisor. It has been it has helped me protect my time, because time is the most valuable thing that we can use, we can give away, or we can waste. And I try not to waste that time if all possible. And routines and processes are how I protect it. And so I started thinking about last week. I was distracted with the markets. I was unbalanced. Like I said, I spent 20 hours on baseball, which is more time than I spent dedicated time with my family last week. The business was running me. I wasn't running the business. I was slow getting back to my clients. I make it a point to get back within 24 hours with everyone. And as I was reading last night, it hit me. I had lost my routine. I had gotten out of focus. I had become unbalanced. And so the first thing I did this morning was, after I got the kids up. Oh, and by the way, my wife's in the Grand Canyon hiking rim to rim to rim. So in case you don't know what that is, they start on one side of the Grand Canyon, hike down and up, and then they turn around and hike back down and up, all in one straight stretch. So it's about a 46-mile walk that she's hoping to do in the next 20 hours. Wow. So I'm playing, I'm solo dad this week too. So, get breakfast done, which is what I normally do in the mornings anyway, but then get lunches made, get kids out the door. And then I come back and I start my routines. The first thing I did was I emailed John to tell him I was going to go off topic today. And then I went out and got my run done, came back, had breakfast. I got my urgent to-dos and my calls, because I developed a real dislike of not cold calling, but just calling in general from 2007, 8, 9. I did so much of it. I just realized that that's not me. So that's the first thing I do in the mornings. I get my calls done. I get them out of the way, because I'm more of a people person. I'd rather meet with you in person and do that kind of thing. And then I'm here, and then I've got a couple more things scheduled this afternoon, but then I've got baseball again with the 3 boys. I got to pick them up from school at 3 o'clock. We go to baseball, we come home, we have supper, it's bedtime. And then I finally get to do me again. But that's going to come back to the other part of staying balanced, is working on my faith, working on my finance, working on my field. And these are just areas of what are called ULA. And ULA is this idea of just full life balance. And ULA, the concept, or the reason it's called ULA, is when you are sitting on a beach and you've got your drink in hand, or whatever it is you want to have cold next to you. You got the umbrella, you've got the little tiki thing in your drink, the slice of pineapple, your feet are in the water, toes are in the sand, to quote a song here. You're just the state of bliss, your state of perfection. And for me and the guys that started this, that state of bliss is ulala, and they shorten it up to ULA. And so to be in full balance, you have to be this state of ULA. And there's 7 areas: faith, field, finance, fun, fitness, family, and friends. And I might have said friends twice. But anyway, there's 7 F's.
Close enough.
Close enough. If we want to get into a whole ULA thing, I'll bring my wife on board. She's a certified ULA coach, and she can talk to us for an hour about ULA stuff.
Well, and we've talked about it before, and we'll share a link to the book and everything if people want to learn more. So
yeah. So I'm starting to ramble, but I'll bring this back here real quick. The point is, I started looking at my 7 ULA F's, and if I think of ULA as this wheel, faith is a very flat part of my wheel, which is why I work to spend time on it every night. Field is generally not field, finance, fun, and fitness. Those 4 F's, piece of cake. They're perfectly round. I have no issues with those 4 sections of the wheel. Friends, I do have to make it a point to stay in touch with my friends, especially being in Florida for the last 8 months. I've had to put effort and intention into that. But without process, without routines, I don't get a chance to hit all 7 of my F's. And if I don't hit all 7 of my F's in a regular fashion, I don't have a very circular wheel. And if my wheel's not circular, my life isn't balanced. And if my life isn't balanced, something has to give. And unfortunately, I looked at it, and last week, my client service is what suffered. And because of that, I was not able to deliver the authentic experience, the authenticity that I want to give my clients. So as I was reading St. Benedict last night, it occurred to me that I need to get back to my routines. I need to reestablish my balance. I need to reconnect with my 7 ULA F's, so that I could get back to delivering that authentic client experience, get back to being me, get back to what I had internalized the last 15 years of being in this industry, get back to what has made me, so that I could be on my game for you today, but also on my game the rest of this week for not only my family and my kids, but also for my clients.
Well, appreciate you wanting to be on your game for me or for us, Chris. And this ties into what we're trying to really do with our process, open collaboration, and allowing people to truly customize their experience with that. Some people want to engage a lot. Some people want, I got my cat jumping on me. Sienna, can you grab this cat, please? So some people want to engage a lot, some people very little, but that custom experience then leads into accountability and finding whether it be accountability. In this case, you're trying to be accountable for us and making sure that you're getting yourself back on track. If it's accountability to your family, to the kids, what we're trying to do is really drive into that accountability process, and really helping advisors find their core group that they can collaborate with, share ideas with, and then also people that can hold them accountable. Because we're all of us. I mean, I'll tell you, not to make this a soap opera and woe is me, but I mean, the last couple of weeks, I've fallen off the wagon with exercise, with meditation, and it impacts a lot of different areas of life if you let those things go. And so I think all of us, I mean, that's going to happen. It's inevitable. And so, finding that accountability, I think, is important in order to make sure that you stay on track. So anyway, I'm glad we were able to fill that for you and hold you accountable to get yourself back on track.
And again, with the way the markets have been, it's even more important that we deliver that authentic experience, because if we're authentic with our clients, we don't have to convey trust and belief. They will just hear it in our voice. They will just feel it. We don't need to talk them into anything or, keep them from doing something. They just will, because we've been authentic, and they can feel that, they can sense that. And, and you just highlighted it, John. If we don't get our workouts in, if we don't stick to our routines, if we let the business start to run us, we'll lose focus, and the clients will definitely feel that.
Absolutely. Is there, when it comes to implementing ULA, and you've talked about that before, finding that balance, doing those things, is there, some place that you would recommend, where should somebody start, if, whether it be ULA or whether they're trying to find, just reading, meditation, journaling, where would you recommend somebody starts if they're looking to try and bring that into their life, whether they're an advisor or client or anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I think I talk about ULA because it's all I've ever known, and you can Google search all kinds of self-help and things like that. Honestly, I would look at the 3 or 4 people around you and that person who's got it most together, and ask them, what they're doing that they're so calm, or they're so together, or so with it. And they might tell you that, hey, I look like a duck on top of the water and I'm paddling like crazy underneath, and you just don't see it. That might be the case. But clearly they've got something in control. Otherwise, do a Google search for ULA, or reach out to me afterwards. I'll put you in touch with my wife, and she can give you some, you can talk to her about some things. Just whatever it is, figure out a way to stay balanced, figure out a way to stay centered, figure out a way to de-stress, so that you can continue with that authentic experience.
And it leads to so many other things that come from that. I mean, you're buying a practice and, building and growing your business on top of all the other things that you got on your plate. I mean, you're looking to acquire and bring on, more and more business as you continue to grow. You're not going to be able to do that, right, in a sustainable manner unless you have that balance.
Correct. And, I'm sitting here, you talked about bringing on clients. And I alluded to it a little bit, the interviews, the client segmentation, talking to them right away, literally asking them what they're looking for, and then just delivering on that, and slowly asking them, more questions down the road as the relationship advances. But 2 more things too, that for me, from an authenticity standpoint, is over time, I will ask them all 7 of the ULA questions. And, the standard, question we would ask someone who's thinking about retirement is, You're 65, you've just retired. What are you doing on a Tuesday morning? And that's great. But I take it one step further and I say, you're 65. What are you doing for fun? What are you doing for fitness? How are you connecting with your friends? What have you, are you still learning? What are you doing for your field? What's your new hobby? What's your new craft? If I know that they attend church, I'll ask them, what are your faith goals? And so for me, I continue to incorporate that ULA in this as I build their financial plans. On a more personal standpoint, as I meet with clients the first time, obviously, we've all seen the studies where what you wear and color and all that. So the first time I meet with someone, I come in professional looking. It's not always a shirt and tie, but it's at a minimum a polo shirt and dress pants, and that is normally my standard garb in the office. But I'll tell you, if it's account closing time and I'm going in to seal the deal, whether you like him or you hate him, you cannot deny the success that Tiger Woods has had. And he traditionally wears red on Sunday. And the reason he wears red on Sunday is because he is there to dominate. He is there to win, and he takes nothing else. And that is me. You find me in a client closing meeting, I'm wearing red. I've got my red polo on. I've got my power colors. I had my power breakfast. I mean, it's all about, hey, I'm in charge. We're doing this, and that's that. But that's just who I am. So, that's just one little way that I've internalized me in terms of being that authentic with clients and the experience.
Well, and yeah, like you said, it's you, right? That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the case for everyone, but that's your process. That's how you feel confident, and ultimately how you deliver what's best for the client, right? I mean, there's so many different ways. We're going to finish up now, but I could really start going on, because when you start talking about asking these very, very important, impactful questions to clients about retirement, so much is said. It's about, what are you going to do for me? You're going to give me a better return than the S&P 500. Well, for what? What is this money? What's the purpose? What are we trying to accomplish with this money? And even if you go to another level and you say, I'm going to generate X amount of income, which I think is better, that we're at least moving toward a purpose, whether the client's drawing income or not, down the road, they will be at some point. And with that mindset of, income is important, but another step even beyond that is really looking at that life fulfillment and talking about those things, like you said, family, faith, friends, like those are the things that the money is going to provide for those clients. That's what a financial advisor can provide to their clients, is give them that peace of mind, give them that life experience. And obviously you have to talk about the money in order to get there, but that the money itself isn't the goal. The returns aren't the goal. That's simply a means to a greater purpose.
Yep. Agreed. Yep. So, well, I mean, again, I could continue rambling. We've been rambling now for 35 minutes, John. So I'll let you wrap it up, and then I'll stick around for the one-on-one Q&A if there's anyone who's got anything for us.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are a current member of the GAF Peer Pod, please engage with us throughout the week inside the Peer Pod. On Wednesday, we will be doing our standard Hear from a Peer meeting. Please jump in for Hear from a Peer on Wednesday. If you are not a member and you are interested in learning more about what we are doing, please go to goodadvisorsfinishfirst.com or goodpeoplefinishfirst.com, or feel free to reach out to us directly. Chris, thank you so much for joining us this week. We will now open up for the Backstage Pass exclusively for our members. Thank you.